Hey friends, thank you so very much for tuning in. It's wonderful to have you back. And thanks for finding this video because as you know, guys, YouTube isn't making it any easier on any of us in the alt media as they change their algorithms to literally silence us. We're not getting any new subscribers anymore because YouTube isn't recommending our videos to new subscribers. So you guys are definitely the hardcore SGT Report audience that finds us every single time. Thank you so much for standing with us for truth. And guys, stay tuned because sometime in the next few days, I have to do a video about Axios. Axios is a brand new media company, a news company. It's what they portray themselves as being with 89 employees. They've gotten $20 million in funding. They plan to have a total of 150 employees. They get complete and total access to interviewing Google CEO Sundar Pichai, as seen in this piece. And if you look at their YouTube channel, they only have 7,000 subscribers. And this particular video, this exclusive interview with Sundar Pichai about YouTube's practices, has 823 dislikes and only 31 likes. This is a company, a left-wing, establishment-built, establishment-funded, establishment media company with 89 employees, with 7,000 YouTube subscribers and $20 million in funding. The game is so rigged, the fix is in, and it's so obvious to everybody. Again, 823 dislikes and only 31 likes on this particular interview, a segment from a piece evidently that's playing on HBO, and only 23,000 views. The fix is in. It's just so disgusting and so demoralizing, and I know we're all fed up with it, but hang with us, guys. Thank you so much for your support. And I want to let you know this video is brought to you in part by the Patriot Flashlight. It's solar powered by the sun, so you won't need to waste any more money on batteries. The Patriot Flashlight has a life-saving emergency strobe along with 4 other unique lighting modes, and you can charge your phone anywhere because it has this handy USB port. Other features include a compass, rope, and wire cutter, and a glass-breaking hammer, which comes in handy should you ever find yourself in an emergency in your car and you need to get out. And the Patriot Flashlight is obviously a perfect gift for Dad on Father's Day. So pick one up while supplies last. You can use promo code SGT20 to save 20% off. So get one for Dad for Father's Day. It's the best flashlight on the market. I'll leave the link below this video. All right, guys, time to welcome Lynette Zang back to the program because it's been far too long since we last spoke and there's so much to discuss. Lynette, welcome back.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Sean, and you're absolutely right. There is an awful lot to discuss.
Well, you heard me mention the mainstream media. See, now you know what YouTube is doing. I'm sure that they're doing it to your channel as well, but they're doing it to the alternative news media and really the content producers that made YouTube great originally. They're silencing us by no longer recommending us. And here's why that's important. People can't get truth from the mainstream media. Here's just one example, a very light example, but an example nonetheless. This comes from USA Today and from Forbes. Get this. USA Today says, don't panic about the inverted yield curve. It doesn't always mean a recession. While Forbes says, reliable recession indicator blinking yellow. They can't get their stories straight. The American people can't get truth from the mainstream media. And that's why we exist. But YouTube is trying to silence us. It's all disgusting.
It is very disgusting. And what I also think is interesting just on that topic that you brought up is if you go to the New York Fed's website, they're saying that the recession indicator, the 3-month and the 6-month, the yield curve inversion is flashing red. So not yellow, and not it doesn't matter, but that it's flashing red and it's not, you know, is this time different? Oh, I don't think so.
Right. Well, you know, and Peter Schiff has come out and said, look, the Fed's been lying this whole time. They said they'd unwind their balance sheet. They can't unwind their balance sheet. And now it's going to be QE forever, which I think is why cryptos are going back to the moon. I don't know if you've been watching Litecoin, but it's vaulted from about 22 up to 135 as we're having this conversation today, just in the past few months. This isn't a crypto conversation, but I think that the cryptos are telling us a story again. Silver and gold, QE forever. Lowering interest rates. The Fed says they may lower. The Fed may lower interest rates. It's just the same old broken story. And meanwhile, we have a president in the White House that's willing to take on other governments and other nations and play hardball. I want to ask you about that regarding the tariffs against Mexico. He's making Mexico do what they need to do on their side of the border to prevent this country from being flooded, which I think is terrific.
Well, there are, I definitely am a strong believer that those trade agreements that were written were not written for our best interest. The people. They were about giving corporations sovereignty. So it needed to change, and it is changing. But here's really the challenge that I see as I'm reading everything. These are all contract based. In fact, our whole economy is now contract based. If you are writing a contract with somebody else, you have to have confidence in the person on the other side of that contract. That's the counterparty. And so when President Trump used the tariffs to get his border security, which we know he's been very keen on this whole time, that was using, what that really did was it showed the whole world that counterparty risk is much greater than anybody's anticipating. Just like what happened, this is another layer of loss of confidence. And it's so huge, and people are not really understanding how huge it is. But I want you to think back to 2008. And what happened during the crisis was that bank to bank confidence was gone. That's where we ended up seeing that the LIBOR was just a manipulated number, because that trading, that confidence between bank to bank, that counterparty confidence was annihilated in 2008. And then in 2015, you had the central banks still had confidence in each other. And of course, they're all members of the IMF, 189 of them. So they're all there and they're meeting. And every day, Switzerland is saying what an important an important relationship their currency has to the euro dollar, and they're going to maintain it. And that was on the 13th of January. And suddenly on the 15th of January, in a surprise move, that confidence was gone. And then China added to it. But the confidence between central bank and central bank, gone, 2015. And now all of the central banks know that they're going to do what's in their best interest first, regardless of any other agreements that they have with central banks. So now, with all the global trade agreements being renegotiated, which I am fully on with you, they needed to be, because they gave corporations sovereignty over governments, and governments are supposed to represent you and me. So I'm totally in agreement with that, but it still undermines global counterparty confidence at a time when we're renegotiating all of those contracts. And I think there is a big accident waiting to happen. I think that was a black swan event, because nobody expected that. And even though he walked back the tariffs, that doesn't matter. Everybody now knows that counterparty confidence, I'm not sure that it's very strong anymore.
Well, let's just look at it, though, pragmatically. If Donald Trump wasn't in the White House and Hillary Clinton was in the White House, paint the picture for us about how badly we'd be in shape, because the borders would be wide open and Mexico would allow, none of this would change. We would continue to be flooded by illegals. And I guess, by the way, you can't say that now on YouTube anymore. You can't criticize anyone for their immigration status. That's part of their new policy change. So we literally are now off limits talking about political topics, the sovereignty of our nation. Donald Trump seems to stand for the sovereignty of this country, whereas Hillary certainly would not have. So that's the good news. He's willing to play hardball.
I definitely agree that Hillary was just more of the same. So, on some levels, when you're talking about counterparties, right, you're not getting any change, so you're not getting any backlash. So I'm not making a judgment on whether or not, because I personally agree with it. And I even did videos on it, a while ago about all of those trade agreements. So I absolutely know that it needed to happen. Here's the thing. This is why we need to have a reset, though. And this is going to lead us into that reset. Does that make sense to you?
Well, no.
There's no purchasing power left in the currency. Interest rate, they can't raise interest rates, so we're looking at zero. Look at Japan as an example, because we've got, 20, 30 years of history with them being in this same place. So, and the reason why it was allowed, because everybody agreed. But could we be Japan? for the next 20, 30, 100 years? No, the system has to reset. And something will create an excuse for that reset. And my bet is that it's about confidence. And what this shows me, aside from whether it's right or wrong or whatever, what this shows me, you know, you only have so many levels of confidence.
Right.
And today, the only thing that's really keeping the system together is public confidence in the currency and in the leadership. And in the leadership, I'm really not talking about Trump so much, I'm talking about the central banks.
Well, let's talk about that. You and I have talked in the past about interbank lending hitting all-time lows. And so confidence, if we're going to talk about confidence, we need to talk about that because, you know, when I have Bill Holter on, he says, when the credit markets seize up, it's game over. Well, if I just type in credit markets seizing up, we can go back to 2008 with an article from CNBC. And in December of 2018, credit markets are freezing up, NASDAQ.com. This is a story that continues, and it makes me wonder if this is why the central banks are buying so much gold, because they know sooner or later it's going to be game over.
Exactly. They know this. So, you know, they don't want you to think of gold as a safe haven asset, but it's actually a savings-based money. Because all of these fiat products, these stocks, these bonds, these derivatives, all of this stuff, they are intangible. They exist in one place only. Whereas when you have gold money, which takes effort and energy to pull out of the ground, but here's the difference between that and, say, digital currencies, is that you have use across every avenue of the global economy. In fact, when I went to France, I was fortunate enough to be able to eat in a Michelin star restaurant, and there was actually gold. I think Megan posted it. There was gold on my food, on my dessert. It was delicious. But you know, but it's used in the financial system, it's used in engineering, it's used in medical, it's used in jewelry, it's used everywhere. So you always have demand for it. Whereas with these other fiat Wall Street products, it's used one place. So when the credit freezes, you can only draw from one place. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. But let me ask you a question. Let's circle back. You're talking about a reset. A reset needs to happen. Are you talking about a reset with the Federal Reserve in our country, or are you talking about a global reset that would include the ECB? And I mean, you're talking about a global event?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. We wanted globalization. I remember being a young stockbroker because I started in '86. And all the talk around me was about globalization and the shift, because once we shifted and handed the power, 71, handed the power over to the central banks, that's about debt and that's about leverage. And the banks became the most important area of the economy. And corporations, I mean, these are private corporations. So what? It was 94 when China pegged their yuan to the US dollar. And what did that do? That let the American manufacturers know or anticipate the profits that they could generate, and it was a whole lot cheaper. Chinese workers were a whole lot cheaper than US workers. So it shifted manufacturing. I mean, I remember I went to school in Fairleigh Dickinson, which is in Teaneck, New Jersey. And a boyfriend at the time's father worked in the garment district in New York. And so we went to Manhattan. It was hustling and bustling. It was the center of fashion. There's no manufacturing done there anymore. Oh, there might be a little bit, I don't know. But all of that was shift overseas because China pegged their yuan to the dollar, and that encouraged manufacturers to make more money, corporations to make more money, and they shipped their manufacturing there. I know that President Trump is attempting to reverse that.
Right.
And just keep in mind that there is always danger in change. This has been something that's been established over the last, 30 years, 40 years. Now the rules are changing. It's not going to be such an easy shift, but the global reset, I mean, we are so interconnected. Now they're talking about currency wars on top of trade wars. And President Trump is saying that, and I'm actually going to be doing something on this week, that President Trump is saying that China is a currency manipulator, but then pulling that back. So not actually saying that they're a currency manipulator. Well, here's the thing. They're all currency manipulators because that's what fiat money is. It's by decree. And then if you extrapolate that out, that's all the products that are based on that. But it's by decree. It is cheap and it is easy to create fiat money.
Right.
And the more you create, the less value that it has. It has no value left. We're anchored at zero. We're anchored at zero. That's why everything has to reset, because the system has to reset. It doesn't work anymore. It died in 2008. I stand by that. All this QE, QQE, whatever to infinity, all that is life support. But we've had the rise of the zombies, particularly since 2008. I think the term was coined in 2010. But Japan is really the one. Interest rates at nothing allow corporations that should be bankrupt, that are actually bankrupt, all the banks that are insolvent, this zero interest rates enable them to continue to eat up our resources, but they don't add to our productivity.
Right. Well, let's see what the president is saying today on Tuesday, June 11th, as we're having this conversation. Because again, we brought up Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton was in the White House, I compare her often to Macron, right? A Rothschild puppet, a globalist. The people in France despise Macron. They've learned to despise him. They were definitely misled when he threw his hat into the ring to run and was labeled by the mainstream lying media as an outsider when he was a Rothschild banker. We'd have gotten the same exact policies from Hillary Clinton. So President Trump tweeted this out on Tuesday, June 11th. When you are the big piggy bank that other countries have been ripping off for years to a level that is not to be believed, tariffs are a great negotiating tool, great revenue producers, and most importantly, a powerful way to get companies to come back to the USA and to get companies that have left us for other lands to come back home. We stupidly lost 30% of our auto business to Mexico. If the tariffs went on at the higher level, they would all come back. But very happy with the deal I made if Mexico produces, which I think they will. Biggest part of deal with Mexico has not yet been revealed. I wonder what that is. China is similar, except they devalue currency and subsidize companies to lessen effect of the 25% tariff. So far, little effect to consumer. Companies will relocate to the United States. I just think it's great news because, again, the man takes his case to the people, and he actually seems to care about this country, standing in stark contrast to the witch known as Hillary Clinton.
Well, I would agree. What President Trump is doing is he's trying to bring those jobs that have been shipped out back. And we need that because we need to put our workers to work. Even though they're showing, the lowest level of unemployment, we also have the lowest level of participation. So there are all sorts of ways to fudge those numbers. But think about how disruptive that is to our supply chain. I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. Please don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is it is an accident. It is a black swan accident waiting to happen. And there could be any number of things. There's also Brexit. There's also the Italian banks. You alluded to the lack of liquidity. There is no liquidity in these markets other than what the central banks are providing, or tax changes or what have you, but that liquidity freezes. It can freeze. Although central banks can just print. I think we're headed to modern money theory where you don't even have to worry about issuing bonds in order to create money. You just create the money. And as nice as that sounds, really, there's really no such thing as a free lunch. And that's how Venezuela, Argentina, Germany, that's Turkey. That's how it all happens, because you start to just create money from nothing. Right. And President Trump, like President Xi in China, he's president for life. Done. and they directly control every single aspect of the economy. And they also have full surveillance over their population. Not a place where I would personally want to live. But there seem to be more and more calls for direct control of the currency. And I'm telling you, this scares the Hades out of me. And I'm actually going to be talking about it on Thursday of this week, because that scares the Hades out of them. They're already, all of them, even in the US, every single country is devaluing the currency. So that's through inflation. Now, in addition to that, though, they also do this. I'm going to show you from the BIZ, the Bank for International Settlements. They track, well, they do surveys on this. So all of the governments intervene. They don't say it's manipulation, but I don't know. Intervention seems like manipulation to me. So they intervene in these currency markets. That is, and it's just a joke to call another country, frankly, a currency manipulator, because everybody's doing it. So that's like calling the pot calling the kettle black. They're both black. So, it's really, but it's dangerous. Where they're headed, where everybody is headed, with direct control of the value of the currency in relation to other currencies. Because we already know we have no purchasing power left. I mean, this is hyperinflation just it's happening. It scares the heck out of me. It really does. I'm telling you, I'm watching this, and here's that black event.
Yeah, as we've discussed many times, I think the inflation is really hiding in the stock market, right? So we see it in the asset prices on Wall Street. So the rich get richer. The average guy is not participating in the rise of Amazon from $5 after the internet bubble collapsed to what is it now? I don't $1,800, $2,000 a share. Again, the rich get richer. Meanwhile, the rest of us take it in the shorts because our purchasing power goes down. Gold and silver, which we may own in our portfolios, is frozen. Gold's at what, 1327, and silver's at 1475. It's absurd.
Yeah. This is absurd. But just like I'm talking about them manipulating all the currencies and all the money, gold is money. Silver is money. And a rising gold and silver price, but particularly gold, is an indication of a failing currency. So at the moment, it benefits them to suppress the price. And you talk about the rich getting richer and everybody else getting poorer, and say, look, this is their opportunity. They're buying gold hand over fist. And JP Morgan is buying silver hand over fist because they manipulate the price low. They know how severely undervalued it is. Why aren't we taking advantage of it? I am. You are. Do you think I really personally give a rat's patootie if gold is at $1,200 an ounce right now or $3,000 an ounce right now? No, because I know absolutely 100% that it's worth at least 10,000 of those fiat dollars at this moment in time. So if you want to participate, all you have to do is buy low and sell high, which sounds easy, but you got to believe the data. I'm data gal. And I can tell you that when it is time to do the reset, when everybody has felt enough pain to accept anything they want to shove down our throats, look at Venezuela, then they reset it. And in terms of fiat, gold will go and probably surpass, because that's what always happens, its fundamental value at the same time that these fiat money products, all of these stocks and these bonds, but also real estate, that's where the inflation is hiding. All of that will lose that inflation value in relation to gold. Then you take your gold and you begin to convert it into real, tangible, income-producing assets that are flipping dirt cheap.
Right.
Not rocket science. It's happened over 4,800 times, and we're in the same place. So what is the most likely outcome? Most likely outcome is we're going to get the same kind of results. So I just keep accumulating. And when they push gold down, I say, and silver, I say, thank you very much. And I take advantage of it just like they are. What are the smartest guys in the room doing for themselves?
Right.
And how do you know when it's time to shift from the gold into those other assets? Again, there are patterns. There are recognizable, repeatable patterns. This is what I try and help people see in all of my videos. All you have to do is know where to look to see what the smartest guys in the room on any given topic are doing for themselves. And if you can emulate it, it's real simple. Do it.
Right. Well, let me.
Gold and silver. So should you.
Right. Let me ask you this before we part ways. I want your view on the dirty Democrats. Now, again, my hat's off to the president for playing hardball with Mexico. You say that could have been and I think it could have been a black swan event, the 5% tariffs on everything Mexico produces.
The tariffs. It's the loss of confidence. It's not the tariffs.
Okay, but here's the thing. I love the fact that this president. I love the fact that this president's willing to play a game of chicken with other nations, because in this case, he won. The result was Mexico froze human traffickers' bank accounts and sent 6,000 Mexican National Guard troops to the southern border there with Guatemala to try to prevent more immigrants from flooding into Mexico and thereby, creating these human caravans and flooding into the United States. So I love it that this guy will play hardball with his adversaries. And at the end of the day, we need to look at the 2020 election. We know they're already censoring the alternative media, the same alternative media that helped get this president's message out, that I think helped get President Trump elected. It wasn't the Russians. It wasn't hackers. It was we the people standing for somebody to stand up for the Constitution, in this case, President Trump. These same Democrats, these same ideologues that are in bed with the deep state, and I would say the social media giants, are now trying to fix the game to silence all of us to prevent Donald Trump from being reelected in 2020. In your view, how do we prevent that from happening? What can we do? Should we do a class action lawsuit? I tweeted out yesterday that I think it's high time that all of us in the alt media got together and talk about the parameters for a class action lawsuit. We've got to get the biggest people who have been silenced to get together and form a class action lawsuit. Do you think that has merit?
What I think is it needs visibility. So if you can get that visibility via a class action lawsuit, because presumably, and I don't know this as a fact, but presumably if you can get 3% of the population to understand or go along with whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's to introduce, cryptocurrencies, or to get people to recognize real money, or to get them to recognize bringing the jobs back and de-globalization, whatever that message is, you need to get eyes on it. You need to get people's buy-in. And so if that would give you the most visibility, that's the problem when they censor you. You lose that visibility. Right. A big part, just so you know, and because to my knowledge, and I'll knock wood here, we have not had that issue, but I source 100% of everything that I say. So it might be harder to censor me because there's the proof right there. It's not an opinion. Here's the hard copy from the International Monetary Fund, the Bank for International Settlement, the Federal Reserve. That's why I use those sources.
Right. Well, let me tell you this. I'll give you a little inside baseball. When I do economic interviews, when I do anything related to precious metals or the dollar, those are largely unencumbered by YouTube. And certainly those are the only videos I get that are allowed monetization advertising. Anything else that I talk about, the deep state, the problem with human trafficking and pedophilia, any of those others, a lot of the Q information that I've shared, all of that stuff gets immediately demonetized and I think throttled down in terms of views. Our view counts in 2019 are down 40 to 50, in some cases 70% versus last year averages. And I think where we have these people, YouTube and Google, in a court case is because what they're engaged in is tortious interference. I've said it many times. It's when one person intentionally damages someone else's contractual or business relationships with a third party. In this case, us reaching our audience. They are literally changing their algorithms to prevent us from reaching our audience. That's tortious interference. And they're also in violation of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, because now they're acting as a curator of content instead of a level platform where they're just a publisher. So everybody knows that. these people need to be brought to heel by this president one way or the other, or they're going to prevent him from being reelected in 2020. Although I don't think they have a candidate. The Democrats don't have a candidate to run against him. I mean, who do they have? Joe Biden? Joe Biden's got almost as much problems illegally speaking and criminally speaking as Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So.
No, you know, if you're bringing a lawsuit, the point of that is the visibility. And the timing of it is pretty good because, of course, there's all these antitrust lawsuits, or, you know, Congress is really looking at the size and the control. I mean, as long as it suited them to develop the technology so that they could do all the surveil, they just let them rock and roll. Now that they've got that, maybe they don't need them so big anymore. But, you know, we know that their revenues at these places, Google, Amazon, et cetera,
is down.
Well, but it's also greater than a lot of the nations.
Oh, I know, but ironically, Google's ad revenue, YouTube's ad revenue is down because of the change to their algorithms, because people aren't watching what they want to watch. And so they're getting fed CNBC videos or Fox News videos or CNN videos, and nobody wants to watch that. You can go downstairs and turn on your cable TV to watch that crap. So exactly. YouTube is literally destroying itself on purpose to try to prop up the dinosaur establishment media and to kill off those of us that made YouTube what it is and why people want to go there. So it's crazy. I do think that Google Alphabet has its hands full with this antitrust investigation by the DOJ, though. That's the good news too, because the antitrust investigation is asking one simple question: is Google prohibiting competition, or are they promoting competition? Right. And they're clearly killing competition on purpose to try to prop up the dinosaur establishment media. So hopefully they'll be brought to heel very soon. Lynette, thanks so much for your go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was saying. You know, if you brought a lawsuit at this time, then you're piggybacking that momentum. Right? And those eyes. And that's what you really need. You need a public outcry. You need people to understand what's really happening, aside from the fact of how convenient it is. Because that's how they always sell these lies, is inconvenience. It is so convenient to have somebody deliver stuff or, you know, go on, et cetera, et cetera. And so you give up all of your privacy. You give everything up. You give them control of what you get to see and what you get to hear. And who are they? They're for profit.
Right.
Right. So I think it's the timing would get you more eyes because it's already becoming more visible now.
Right. Well, I don't think anybody would disagree with you. And it's a big story. It's a story that, of course, gets flipped on its head by the mainstream lying establishment media, because, of course, they're trying to label all of us as white supremacists or Nazis. It's just so completely absurd. And so it's bringing so many of us on YouTube, creators together from all different walks of life. All different types of content creators are being affected by this. And I think at the end of the day, YouTube and Google are on the losing end of this in the public square. They're not going to win this in the public square. People are waking up, and nobody, if you're awake, if you stand for freedom and sovereignty and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, then by nature, you despise this sort of fascism. So I don't know how this is a conversation they think they can win. So, all right, well, we'll pray for the best. And Lynette, thanks so much for your time. Why don't you tell people how they can reach you?
Well, they can find me on YouTube. Just Google ITM Trading. And also Lynette Zang. And also we have an 800 number, 888-696-4653, because we definitely have a much more hands-on approach. And those patterns that we talked about, that is all part of the strategy. So we want the little guy to have the wealth shift their way, and you can do it at any level, you know, that you have the ability to, but we're all about making those plans based upon your specific goals and what you have to work with and all of that. So that's how they can find me. Pretty easy. Right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Lynette, thank you for your time. And one last thing I want to say, guys, and I've said this many times before, but let's take a bite out of Google, right? Stop using the Chrome browser. You can use a much better browser. It's called Brave. I'll leave the link below. Brave is paying it forward by giving content creators like me an opportunity to get paid BAT tokens. The cool thing about Brave is it's got a built-in ad blocker. It won't spy on you, and it's more than twice as fast as Google's Chrome. So download the Brave browser, give it a try. You'll love it. And if you want to see ads, then they'll pay you BAT, basic attention tokens, that you can use to pay forward by tipping your favorite content creator. So it's a win-win. Take a bite out of Google, use the Brave browser. I'll leave the link below this video. So thanks so much for your support, guys. And Lynette, thanks again for your time.
Take care.
All right. God bless, guys. And for real news 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda and Mockingbird mainstream media lies. God bless. Bye-bye.